Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shane and Todd's Cloudy Podcast, episode 441, recorded live September 25th, 2019. It's you and it's me again. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Our schedules and our workloads have not allowed us to indulge ourselves in this very much lately.
No, I think it's probably been 2 weeks since I've even spoken to you, let alone like try to do a podcast with you. It's been bad.
And then once that all worked out, then Teams joined the conspiracy to try to keep us from podcasting.
I don't know. I know Teams was going the extra mile. Yeah. So, we're now doing the show on Teams, right? Because Skype for Business for my tenant is just dead. It's gone. Don't even open anymore. Yep. And so Todd tried to call me so we could do a Teams call so we could share this for the show. And it was so anxious to do the podcast that it would only show up on my phone. So I was able to, do the Teams call on my phone, but not on my computer. It was fabulous.
Yeah, and so somehow we have tricked Teams into letting us talk. I'm not sure how long that will last. So Shane and I both drink the Microsoft Kool-Aid in big gulps. We've got the Kool-Aid mustaches and all that. Both of us want to love Teams, and it just has to not be horrible for us to love Teams. I don't love Teams. It is just killing me.
Yeah, it's for most of what I do with Teams, right? It's staying inside my tenants with my own people. That seems to be pretty solid. But man, if you try to get outside of that box,
it just explodes. Yeah, and for me, so for you probably too, as a consultant, I wander outside of that box because I have to, because Microsoft's marketing has done a great job in getting people excited about Teams.
Really?
So a lot of my customers use Teams, and I have meetings with them, and we have meetings with Teams, but it's always in their tenant. And this is a fun one, and I knew about this, but I didn't remember it. If you are in a meeting in somebody else's tenant, as you, but in their tenant, and doing the thing that Shane and I are doing right now, if somebody in your tenant sends you a chat and you click to see it, it disconnects you from the meeting and switches tenants. Yeah, just like that, real fast. It's very efficient in how quickly it does that. Just hangs you up and off you go.
Well, remember, you asked for faster team switching, so they gave you faster switching, and now you're complaining? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's never enough for me. Never. I'll never be happy. So I did that one last week, and it's been a while since I've fallen for that one. But I did that one. And another fun one. So then the fix is to open up a browser in one tenant or the other, so you can chat in one and whatever in the other. And that mostly works, but I'm doing that with another company. And for whatever reason, I can't paste pictures. I can't upload files or attachments or anything to them, but yet I can't switch my desktop client because I'm in the middle of stuff like this. Oh, for goodness sakes.
Well, and remember, we also, in Teams, we can no longer paste pictures back and forth, right? So if you and I are chatting in Teams across tenants, right, I tried to send you that picture of me that you wanted. You know what I'm talking about. And
I have no idea what he's talking about.
And it wouldn't let it go. Like it wasn't like the inappropriate content filter. It was literally just couldn't even do a picture of my dog. It was very sad.
Yeah, and I don't understand that one. Like I've done that before with other customers. And so I don't know what it is about your tenant and the Simpraxis tenant that's not allowing that. Yeah. And I desperately want to send you that picture you've been begging me for.
Yeah. And that's another good thing, right? So as we go to troubleshoot that, this is another thing that I despise about Teams is, it used to be if I generated a meeting and I invited you to my meeting in my tenant, right? So we're all in my tenant, yay. Then what would happen was my tenant's rules would set the rules for the meeting, like screen sharing and that type of stuff. Now it is not that case, right? If I send you an invite and you join with your Simpraxis account into my meeting, for me to do things in the meeting uses my rules, but in that same exact meeting, for you to do things, the Simpraxis rules do. So we have two different sets of rules of who can do what in the meeting based on your home tenant, which is just infuriating.
Bonkers. Yeah, and I assume, I'm wearing Fruit of the Loom underwear. I'm sure their tenants' policies figure in somewhere. I don't know why they wouldn't. Yeah.
That's really hard to understand.
Yeah, it's been very difficult. And yeah, so yeah, it's just, and then I've got another customer. They are on some non-production build of Teams, client side, server side. I'm not entirely sure, but it is a different experience even there. Like there's stuff you can and can't do and stuff that doesn't work in the client that I don't think is just as simple as, policy settings. It is maddening.
Well, and then I can also tell you this morning, so I spoke at another one of his online events, right? It's XRM 24 hours of body. And of course they wanted me to, kick off the whole thing this morning. So,
Of course.
Which I thought was an honor. And then I realized I was the only one on the East Coast. They wanted to start at 8:30 East Coast time. So the honor was I lived in the right time zone.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they did it through this whole new Teams Live feature, which I have not tried to do myself. But in order for them to do a Teams Live event, which I guess is kind of like the Google Live event or things we used to do, they had to add me to their tenant. I had to make sure that I was in their tenant before I joined the meeting. And then there was like different links for different people. It was the world's largest train wreck to make. I mean, it turned out well for the participants, right? But on the back end, trying to get everyone to come in from the right angle, it took days of practice to use this thing. I was like, you guys might have missed the mark with this one.
It's like a train wreck happening on top of a tire fire. It was...
Yeah, whereas, the other live event I recently did was on YouTube Live, and son of a gun, it just worked. It was really bizarre. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you get invited into a Teams Live event, which is brand new tech apparently, I haven't used it at all. It's yeah, you might want to say, hey, can I rehearse 3 or 4 times because I just don't trust the tech.
That's a good to know. So with that production woe, another production woe. So we are dreadfully behind in production, and basically what it's come down to is that Shane and I both personally and with work schedules just haven't had time to do the production stuff, and that's kind of why we're behind on that. So if anybody wants to volunteer and help us out, there might be places where people can help with that, but we're trying to figure that part out so that we can get the backlog. I think I'm 5 or 6 episodes behind now, something like that.
Yep. Yeah, and this is right. Just so you guys know, right? I mean, basically, Todd has done all the production for 440 episodes minus the 5 he's behind, so 435. Look at the math. Yeah.
Right, just like that. It's like you weren't even. Like you hadn't had it scribbled down for.
I had notes over here for this. But I just want to point out. I mean, Todd has been a trooper. Has done it. Kept this show going. I suck basically, right? I just literally
can confirm that. Yeah.
Yeah. I literally have no hours in my day to do it. And so then all of a sudden Todd got a real job, and now Todd doesn't have hours in his day to do it. And so if you guys could help us out, that would greatly speed up the process of getting these out, and more importantly, would reduce the burden on poor Todd, which, he hasn't had time to shave in like 6 months. I mean, look at that.
I've had time to hang up my syskit sign for the 7th time so it can fall down.
I've put up like 7 new signs and taken them down since that's all started.
No one likes a show off, Shane. No one.
Would you like me to change a sign right now? I will do it mid-show.
Do it live. I still have my level here for the next time that I do it.
Look, let's see. I just got one right here. I can just grab it.
Yeah. So if anybody listening to this wants to come to Ames, Iowa, and hang up a poster behind my desk, I'll buy you lunch or something.
I'll buy you breakfast. There you go. Todd will buy you lunch. I'll buy you breakfast. You just got to go to his house, hang up a poster, and be prepared to be ridiculed, because I'm pretty sure that Todd's house is just sinking. Because that's his kit sign. It's like this one day. It's like this one day.
Strange seismic activity here. It has been raining a lot, so maybe.
Well, I mean, I saw in the Star Wars movie, or no, the Star Trek movie, you guys have got a big like Grand Canyon like thing there in Iowa, so clearly that's part of the problem.
Not yet. So some event is coming where we will have a big Grand Canyon in Riverside. Fortunately for me, that's like 2 hours away. So I guess 2 hours away. So. Are
you on a fault of some sort too?
I'm sure. Yeah, I think like there's the New Madrid fault line or something runs up through here. But yes, that was, so for those of you that haven't followed along, long time ago in one of the original Star Trek things, it was mentioned that James Kirk grew up in Iowa. And so some Trek fan in the 60s, early 70s, in a very small town, Riverside, Iowa, said, they just said Iowa. They haven't decided where. So I'm deciding James Kirk was born in Riverside, Iowa. And they just started promoting it. They changed the sign outside of the town that said home to James T. Kirk, just went with it. And Gene Roddenberry went, sure, why not? So for 30, 40 years, Riverside, Iowa has been the self-proclaimed home of birthplace of James T. Kirk. So when the Star Trek reboot happened, 10 years ago, something like that, there's a scene in Riverside, Iowa when Kirk is a kid and he's he's taking a car and he's doing a thing and he's jumping over this big Grand Canyon thing. And I can't remember who it was, but at the time I was talking to somebody and I'm like, that's so very clearly not Iowa. There's no big Grand Canyon thing there. And the person that I was talking to just said, not yet, because this all takes place, in 200 years or something. So Shane paid no attention to that story, by the way.
I heard everything. I've heard the story 7 times. I threw the softball that made this story happen because I loved it. In the movie, Kirk's just driving his motorcycle. Sweet facial expressions. And he's going to jump the Grand Canyon, but he's in Iowa.
Yep. We don't have that. We don't have that kind of excitement here in Iowa. So that's, and that was just in the news here not too long ago or something. I saw it on Reddit or some reference to that. Kirk being from Iowa. All the greats are born in Iowa.
Still no proof it's a state.
You were so close, though. You were in Omaha. Like you were so close.
I know. I mean, there was nothing there. So was I supposed to just drive past the nothingness?
Did you look east? What's over there? Nothing. We don't know.
No, it's like, what's west of Westeros, right? No one's ever went that way.
Yeah, no, nobody knows. Nobody cares. So.
Well, yeah, it's very important. I would also like to point out when Todd was telling his boring story, for those of you that don't listen, I hung up a new, the new PowerApps 911 logo, just to show Todd how easy it is here.
Come to Iowa and show off. We'll do it live here in my office. You can stand here. You can hang up a.
Very nice.
I'll allow it.
Right. So anyway, we need help with production. That was the key message here.
Yep, we'll split the profits with you.
All of them.
All of them. So as Shane and I were talking about what we've been doing, so is we've been too busy to do this kind of thing. We had a few things, but it's all little bits and pieces, little nuggets of fun content. So I don't know how much of it we'll get to cover and make much sense. But one of the things that I've been doing a lot has been page modernization, which sounds vaguely sexy, but is really actually kind of sexy when you do it. So I'm working with one customer, and they were early adopters of Office 365. They were all in, big national corporation, just tens of thousands of users, just fun, meaty stuff. And they, for however many years now, have been creating lots and lots of pages in Office 365, using it for news and all these kind of things. And they did news before news was a thing in Office 365.
Okay.
So now they're in the process of modernizing everything because they've got all this legacy content. And there are tens of thousands of these classic SharePoint pages that are news pages and whatever that they need to move to modern. And so I've been tasked with making that happen. And it's been kind of fun. And so there is an engine for this, a page modernization or transformation engine. And you can do it in the UI. There's different pieces for it. But I'm doing it with PNP PowerShell because that just feels like home to me. Just feels good. And so I've been doing this, and essentially I take a pages library from the old classic stuff, decide what I want the new pages to look like in the modern UI. So in this case, web parts have been moved around and pictures have been changed and content's been added based on properties and things like that. Define all that in an XML file. Well, actually a couple of XML files. And then there's just some PowerShell that I can run that walks through the, 800 pages in the old source, does all the transformations that I outline, spits them out into the new modern document library in modern pages, and they just all go.
What about URLs and stuff? Does it do anything?
It does not do anything with URLs. So that is one of the issues that we haven't figured out yet, is these articles have links to other articles in the old location. And at some point, So we're going to move the stuff over, make the old location read only, but at some point that old location is going to go away. We haven't decided how to handle those links yet. So if you've got any ideas, we'd love to hear them.
I don't. It was just, right, because like you, I've done a lot of these migration and upgrade projects, and that's usually one of the gotchas, right? Is you can get everything fixed and done and created, but it's like, none of my links work. And I'm like, yeah, none of your links work.
Yep,
I agree. Moving on.
Yeah. Well, and that's a frustrating one because I know with PowerShell, if I tell PowerShell, and I've got a blog post on this, the blog post I wrote about downloading SharePoint patches, if you can have PowerShell go out and invoke a web request and pull a page in as an object.
Okay.
And that page object, one of the properties it has is links. So that would at least give me a report where I could say to the page owner, this page is linking to these pages that are dead, so you're going to have to go in and manually change these. Or at least we can work on some process, because I also know how to go into a modern page and change content. I mean, I know how to do that. But for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's because I'm not smart enough or what, but I can't get Office 365 SharePoint pages to load into PowerShell with that invoke web request. And I assume it's because the pages are built on the fly with JavaScript and all that, and so there's just not a page to pull down. But that was kind of my idea, is to maybe do that, walk through them. I got some ideas I'm kicking around.
And the page body or whatever, right? Isn't it just HTML text at the end of the day? Could you just grab like the page body field and?
Well, that's the thing. For Office 365 pages, I can't pull the page in that way. If I do an invoke web request, the page that I get is like a 200 page that has nothing in it.
Right, but I'm saying if you go to like the list that the page lives in.
Well, and so now as I'm talking it out loud, so I can do a get client-side page, and then inside of there, all the controls show up in there, so I could walk through the controls, look through the content of each control. So maybe do it like that. So kind of your idea.
But much better than my idea.
Of course. Isn't that always the case?
It always is the case.
So Mark and I have been working on this a little bit, and he thinks that it's a good idea for some blog posts on that. I just need to frame that better, because I've not done the source stuff much. So these pages are, so it's like the old publishing pages from SharePoint Server. And so it's a page, and based on a specific content type, a specific page layout. The page layout has properties in it. That's just stuff I haven't done a lot with. So I can't build the before picture very well, so I need him to do that with me. But the mapping file is pretty cool. So I can say, take this old page layout and pull this custom field that the user defined, Acme publish date, whatever, and then transform it into the modern page property, first published date, and just make all that happen. And you can set up multiple inputs. So you can say, if that value is empty, then try this value. And if that value is empty, then just use the created date.
That's pretty smart. I like that.
And so the other thing, and this is going to sound like I'm name dropping here, but I've been in contact with the guy at Microsoft that kind of owns this, Bert Jansen. There you go. Yeah. And he has been incredibly responsive. So I'm trying all these things and going into all these corners that he just, they've just not seen before. And every month when the PNP comes out, all of the issues that I had the previous 4 weeks, he's fixed. So there have been just little bugs and just a couple of, Bert, it would be great if this happened. And then the next month, there it is. And that is just for guys like you and I that have been working with Microsoft and working with this product for this long. That is just amazing. That is just, so when this project started for me 3 months ago, I had probably a 200-line PowerShell script that I had to run where I had to manually do everything. Had to manually pull the content from this web part, manually create the modern web part, manually populate that, just all of the things. And now it is a single command. I can transform, after I set all my variables, source, destination, all that kind of stuff. Transforming 700 pages, I can do it in a single one line of PowerShell.
Nice.
It is, it's pretty crazy.
Maybe you should tell Bert that you think it'd be nice if Power SharePoint pages hung signs, and see if maybe he can write a command like that was hang your sign for you.
I'll bring that up. The October release is going to have a couple of fixes. I might save that for the November release.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. So that's been fun. So for people that have on-prem publishing pages or online publishing pages, this works for both. And it is just a super easy way to bulk transform those and make them look good all the modern goodness. My customers just excited. They're super excited about this. It's saved them tens of thousands of hours probably.
Yeah. Well, that's always awesome when you've got the guy at Microsoft like that who's invested in making and fixing his portion of the product, right? You found the right guy, he owns it, and he's like, dude, yeah, we should do this, right? And he's doing it instead of being like, oh, maybe we'll write a TPS report about how that is, and we'll get that in wave 74 of, fiscal 2027. You're like, whoa, we'll be like we're going to be on postmodern by then, whatever that turns out to be.
What is the next thing going to be called? Yeah, and that was, so I had his name, and I talked to Bert a couple of times in the past on other things. But I was fighting with some stuff, and Mark's like, well, you should just ask Bert about it. I'm like, man, I don't want to bother him. He doesn't care about what I'm doing. And he's like, no, I really think he does. So I very timidly, send him a little note. I'm like, hey, I don't want to mean to bother you, and I'm not calling your baby ugly, but I think there's this problem here. And he's like, oh, that's great feedback. Thanks for letting me know if there's anything else. I mean, he was, very, very engaged and, very receptive. So it's been a good thing. So kudos to him. Thanks for that.
Nice. Yeah, that's, and it just depends, right? And it seems to be like it's a person thing. It's where the company is in a life cycle, right? Because different times over the years, we've had SharePoint team really super wanting to help us. Other times they're like, who are you guys? So I'm glad to see you kind of back on the other side of, all right, we got this. And, because the PowerApps team, because we're still so young, I mean, and sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that uses the product because of the bugs I find. I'm like, here, and those guys are like genuinely like want to nerd out and figure out why is it doing this? And is it on purpose? Is it on accident? Because some of the things that I consider bugs actually do it that way on purpose because they wanted to make sure they were protecting people from themselves type of things. And so sometimes I accept it. No, it's not going to get better or get changed, but they have these dialogues, and I think that really helps. So.
Yeah, sometime, and I wonder if this figures out. I just listened to a Tim Ferriss podcast, and the guest that he had on was a guy named Safi Bakal. And part of this rant that Safi Bakal had was about incentives in the corporate landscape and how small groups are more productive than big groups. And not just because of overhead and all of that, but how we incent ideas and enthusiasm. And so I think your example, I wonder if it fits into that. And basically his thing was, if you've got a startup and it's like 5 people, 10 people, whatever, any idea that comes up, if you're one of the 10 people on that team and that idea hits, everybody, you get a tenth of the whatever, the revenue, the kudos, whatever. And so the return on following your dream is huge. Then as you move up the stack, because your company gets bigger or whatever, now you're in a 1,000-person company, a 1,200-person company, and you're in these meetings with 20 people. Now supporting big ideas is tougher because even if the big idea hits, like you're one of 1,000 cogs in that wheel, you're not going to get a big bonus. You're not going to get a big thing or whatever. But if whatever your boss says you agree with, then, well, like when promotion times come and all that kind of stuff, well, that might actually work out for you. You might get promoted. You might move up. The return on that is much greater than the return on, doubling down and getting really enthusiastic about things. And so when I listen to that, I'm like, man, I can see a lot of validity to that discussion. It was very interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and to your point, in the larger company with, the large team and the giant idea, basically it hits, right, that one pointy-haired manager who did nothing but somehow managed to stake his name on top of it.
Yep.
He or she gets all the credit, and everyone else is, left to go back and do more work. While that person, schmoozes around the office and drinks their coffee, moving from desk to desk, being like, how goes it over here?
More Lundberg references.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can definitely see, so in a small team like PowerApps, where every win is a big one and people are making names for themselves there, I can certainly see how that kind of enthusiasm is rewarded. And I think as those people make names for themselves and move up the stack, they will be less rewarded for that kind of behavior.
Yeah. That reminds me, I was looking through some old notes. I mean, we're talking probably 6 years ago. We were having some conversations, very easy for me to say, around, more agile business thoughts and, and companies, even larger companies, being more dynamic. And, and one of the challenges in the conversation that I kind of went with was, phasing people in and out is very hard, right? Hiring is hard, firing is even harder.
Yep.
And so as part of that, right, these larger businesses, they struggle. You never want to go take a swing at somebody, right? You don't want to go get that person who's real fiery and passionate, because if that fire and passion turns out to be detriment to your team, then you can't get them out of there. But at the same time, you miss the home run, right? You're just always going for singles. You just want the boring, quiet person that'll do their job. Because, you know, as the pointy hair manager, right, you know that that's the person that you can then rely on to do what you need done. They're not going to try and go ahead of you. They're not going to get in the way, so you can continue to get all the credit.
Yep.
And I think that really, really hurts businesses in the grand scheme of things. But if you think about it, you know, the way the pointy hair manager got there was being a cog in that machine and being the single hitter who just kept hitting enough singles that there was no one left, that they finally moved up. So to them, that's all they've ever known. They can't imagine hiring some idiot like me, right, who comes in and has got ideas and wants to jump from the roof and do crazy things, because that's disruptive to the process. So
yeah.
I don't know. I tripped over those notes yesterday, and I was like, yes, I still believe all this. And you reminded me of that. So.
Oh, fun stuff. So speaking of being disruptive, I know you buy Apple devices. And Apple had an event here a week or two ago. As an Apple product owner, what were your thoughts?
I didn't care.
Fair enough. Ambivalence is a thought. Yeah, that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think the problem became, you know, so if you back up multiple generations, you know, I think like the iPhone 7 was the last one that like really brought something new to the table, right? It was like a major step forward. All the phones since then, including the ones they just released, they've been kind of a whole bunch of meh, which, yeah, I mean, they're a little faster, the camera's a little better, the screen's a little bigger, you know, meh. Yeah. But the prices keep going up at the rate of like they innovated, and, you know, and the phone does some new crazy thing that it's never done. And it's really turned me off to like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch the product announcement, which is not a surprise, but I didn't go read about the new features. I was like, oh look, they introduced a new phone. It's $1,000+ and it doesn't really do anything new. And so yeah, ambivalence is probably where I'm at with a lot of that.
Yeah, I think most people feel that way, and I've got a lot of friends that have iPhones, and there is a lot of interest in the older iPhones. Like there's just the new ones just aren't worth the money. And a buddy of mine, his wife had an 8. I forget what number all of them were, but she didn't want to buy a new one because they were so expensive, and it had a broken screen. And so she was trying to talk herself into buying, getting the screen replaced, but that was going to be a couple $100, and it wasn't that bad. And then, and as a parent, you can relate to this, the camera broke, which makes the phone nearly unusable.
What do you
if you're a parent with little kids, like it's just whatever. And so that's when the straw really broke the camel's back, because the camera didn't work. So she reluctantly got like one level newer iPhone, but still like one or two. And this was after the announcement, so she was able to whatever. But then her husband's able to sell the old phone with a broken screen and a broken camera for parts on like eBay, because everybody wants to keep those old phones. So the parts phones are very valuable because they want to keep doing that. So it's just a weird culture around those devices.
They're just right. I mean, they're just overdue to come up with something new. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't have like a magical feature. I wish they did, but until they do, you just can't, raise the price to sell me something that by all economic purposes and intents should have come down, because it doesn't do anything new, right?
Yeah.
Scale and all those fun things, So what? It's got slightly more memory, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, and with this one, so with the iPhone 11 Ultra super bad version, right? There's like 3 cameras now. And so apparently there's some internet group that has a phobia of small holes. And so it's triggering them. So you might not be allowed to take that iPhone 11 in place because you're triggering the kids these days. So I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny. So the iPhone having 3 cameras is not revolutionary. My Samsung S10 has 3 cameras.
Ooh.
But what really blew people's minds on the iPhone is that they're not in a row like they are, in my nice here, pleasant, bland Samsung. There's a circle and they're in a triangle inside of the circle, and people just freaked out about that.
Yeah. Now I will say, so my first or two iPhones ago, I had whatever the model was that had the two cameras.
Yep.
And then when I bought the latest one, I don't even know what I have. I have an XR, I think. It only has one camera, so I went from two back to one.
Yeah.
Because it saved me like $300. I kind of regret that. I miss my two cameras. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so I think the number of cameras is the value to that is obvious, and for people like that aren't nerds like Shane and I, it's because on a regular camera, the way you zoom in and out is you move the glass, so that's the whole thing. But with phones, you've got a fixed depth, so you can't do that. So they basically stack three different cameras with different focal lengths next to each other, and it switches from camera to camera as you zoom in and out. So if you reduce the number of cameras, you get less focal length. Yeah, I can see why that. Again, it's how they laid them out that freaked people out, and it's funny that that's the case. But yeah, Devin in the chat room mentioned that they're taking headphone jacks away. I really hate that. These headphones that I'm using right now are noise canceling ones that I use when I travel on airplanes, and I hate that they're gonna slowly become obsolete. I hate that.
Yeah, we were in Target the other day, and I put on a pair of the latest greatest, the Bose noise canceling, the cans, because I'm a can kind of guy with that type of stuff. I was like, man, if these weren't $400, I would buy them, right? I mean, they were nice. I liked, they fit my head well. They were nice and comfy, but I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about the noise canceling, like those in-ear noise cancelers? They do a pretty good job?
They do, and I've got the QC35s as well, so the can type ones.
Yep.
I don't know. They're not bad. They don't give me the cone of silence that I wish that they did.
Yep.
So 10 years ago, probably. So these are noise canceling, and the can ones are also noise canceling. About 10 years ago, I had some headphones from Shure, Shure, and they were noise blocking. So they were essentially earplugs with headphones or with earphones in them.
Yep.
Those things were the bar for that. Like when I would put those in, when I would sit on an airplane, I wouldn't hear the announcements. Like I wouldn't know announcements were going on. There's just nothing because it's like earplugs. But the problem with them is they make your ears really tired because they're constantly pushing against your ear.
Right.
So these are a good compromise. They don't block as much of the outside noise as I wish that they did, but they don't make my ears hurt, and you really can't get those Shure ones as well anymore.
Yeah, well, that's the problem I have. I don't like any, so I've got this little guy in my ear now, and I do not like things in my ear holes. It bothers me. So
yeah. So I don't mind these, but I've started using my cans. Like I would use these when I mow. But now I have to use my cans because I'm trying to work through that whole how does the Bluetooth thing work in case my next phone. I feel like ridiculous wearing cans when I mow, but that's the way it's going, I guess.
I need a set of cans.
Yeah, I also have an electric mower, which is way quieter than a gas mower, so that helps a lot too.
Oh, aren't you just all Tesla-fied?
I'm working on it.
All right, so I think the other thing I wanted to just hit real quick, right, because we're running out of time all of a sudden on ourselves. So I've been writing a PowerApps class, a new one, but this one is PowerApps for SharePoint peeps.
Oh, our people.
Yeah, right. So just a straight up focused at the SharePoint person who wants to come over, understand the two different ways that PowerApps works, teach them how to build it. It's going to include, step-by-step instructions to rebuild the demos, a download of the app that you build, right? We're trying to make it like a full featured class for that. So that is about 75% done recording as we speak, but pretty excited for that one. I showed how to integrate Power BI and filter the Power BI inside the Power App. It's a neat little ecosystem class for all of our SharePoint focused people. So if you're into SharePoint a whole bunch, you're like, hey, I probably should learn Power Apps. I'm finally making a class that is just straight up, here's what a SharePoint person needs to know about Power Apps.
So where will that be available? Will that be on the PowerApps 911 website?
Yeah, so poweraapps911.com/training. So out there, right, we currently have 2 free classes. There's a free Power Apps intro class, a free Flow intro class, Then there is a formal, like a 4-day, like or 12 hours, I guess more specifically, a 12-hour big long class out there. We are in the process now of writing a Power BI class and the SharePoint class, which should be out there probably by the time this podcast is produced, quite frankly.
So sometime 2021.
Yeah. I feel pretty confident that my production side will get done before your production side.
I see where your priorities are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm going to make poor Scuba do it. So
make Scuba do this. He likes the sound of our voices.
If only there was revenue attached to this thing.
There's love.
Oh.
So that's good. Yeah, the PowerApp stuff continues to kick butt. Continues to be the answer to questions that my customers have. So I'm excited to see that be fruitful.
Yeah, and because I like you so much, I might give you a discounted seat into the class.
Not free, mind you. Discounted.
No, I mean, I could see giving you 10% off. I mean, I like you an awful lot.
I get that benefit just for being a veteran at restaurants, man. Come on, the stuff you and I have gone through, I should get at least 12%.
I mean, but I'm not going to make you show your card, right? So you don't have to give up your ID to get in my class. But you do have to register, so I guess you do have to give up your info. No, I'm sure we can accommodate you in the class in some capacity. So.
That's funny. That's funny stuff. Well, I'm glad that's the PowerApps thing. That was a good place to land. You definitely hit that one at the right spot at the right time.
Dumb luck once again.
Probably so. And it stinks now because I've done enough and seen enough with PowerApps that every time somebody wants their phone or their tablet or SharePoint to do something, that's just immediately what I think. Oh, they should just write a PowerApp for that. So that's.
Yeah, and there's some fancy stuff in there now too. Like we've got some JSON encoding pieces now, so we can be all hipster-like and have JSON without the A, and there's a lot of really neat things that we're currently doing in there that are building more than just little simple spreadsheet type of solutions. So it's fun.
Excellent. All right. Well, so for promotion stuff, I think the only thing I've got going on is I'm speaking in Slovenia in November. I'm going to be at Ignite, but I'm not speaking. So if anybody's going to be at Ignite, would love to hang out. Shane will not be making it to Ignite this year.
Nobody loves me enough for that. And I've seen the rash of people now that are trying to get in that it's sold out. It's so funny, right? Once it's sold out, everybody's like, oh, I have to have a ticket. I'm like, they were on sale for like 2 years.
Yeah, that whole scarcity thing.
It's real. Yeah, I think I've got a conference in October in Orlando, the Power Summit. So PowerApps Flow. It's a lot of dynamics type of stuff. It's really kind of the dynamics world trying to absorb in some PowerApps and flowy stuff. But a lot of cool content there. A couple days worth of stuff. So I'll be in Orlando in mid-October.
Excellent. Well, chat room, we're going to stick around for a couple minutes, but Shane and I are going to kill the feed. So thanks, everybody. Now that I'm like 6 shows behind, I think now is when I start revving it up and producing a couple. And
don't put any pressure on yourself.
No rush. No rush. All right. Well, everybody, thank you. I don't know if we'll be doing this next week. I'll have to check my schedule. Man, it's been crazy. I see that look of concern on your face.
Yeah, I feel like I think I'm teaching a class again next Wednesday. So
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Last Wednesday,
I don't know why you wouldn't.
I mean, no. As of this moment, I mean, just 7 days between now and then. As of this moment, I'm open next week.
So Mark in the chat room is saying about the Ignite thing, that it took him months and months and months to get approved to go to Ignite. He gets approved and then they sell out.
So Mark, just tell them you want a cash payout. You're going to go there and buy a scalped ticket with their cash. What you do with the cash once you get there?
That's between you and whoever. Yeah.
All right.
So we'll see everybody. See you next week, everybody.
Toodles.